facility, ginahasa umano ang isang babae.
Dami din ang mga bata na ginagamit sa transaksyon sa iligal na droga.
All have lost control. Some may be aware, majority are not. But whatever it is, it all comes down to a situation where they became enslaved to the very thing that they're trying to escape from. Consider this scenario. You wake up at 2 a.m. because you heard a loud noise. And right there, you're given a chance to go check it out or not. As of this moment, you're curious but also scared. Maybe the noises were caused by the robbers that your neighbors have been talking about, or perhaps it's just your dogs having a late night romp. My question is, what will you do? A. Ignore it and go back to sleep, or B. Be brave enough to check it out. Let's say that you chose option A, ignored it and went back to sleep. 5 minutes later, you heard another loud noise, but this time extra louder than the very first time. Your dogs are now barking. You're once again curious but really scared. You confirm that there are other people in your house because you are hearing footsteps, but you live alone. Now I'll ask you the same question with the same choices. What will you do? A. Ignore it and go back to sleep, or B. Be brave enough to check it out. I'm sure we've done things that we recognize as being outside of our control. But whatever we do in a hypothetical situation like this, or in any situation that we encounter, we'd always feel or think of something that may control how we act. It blinds us, making it difficult for us to choose. It pushes us to engage in actions that may give us temporary pleasure or an answer, an experience, or a situation that we're curious about. It makes us believe the lie that everything's going to be okay and we're not going to be harmed in any way. But what will happen if you choose option B? Let's say that you've gathered enough courage to go and check it out. You're concerned about the valuable items that they might steal and you're hoping to do something about it. You're shocked because you've confirmed the existence of robbers in your home. This time, you're for sure in danger. What will you do? You realize that it was too late because you already made a decision. At this point, would you still have the chance to go back and decide again? The majority of the time, people are aware of what's going on. They recognize that they're being tempted but still choose to give in, thinking that it's not so horrible, alternatively, they can do something about it. The scenario I give is a great example of how temptation influences our lives, how different actions have different consequences, and how a single decision affects us as individuals, the people around us, and how the world works. Option B refers to the temptation or impulse we frequently feel to do something that we know is bad, but nonetheless consider doing because it's something that our flesh desires. The repeated question and choices that I provided represents the unbreakable cycle that a person who lacks self-control experiences. The valued items represent transitory pleasure disguised as something that we need and want, but are in fact the reason why our life would be wasted. The neighbors reflect the constant advice that people receive but decided to overlook. The robbers depict the dangers and penalties you must face after falling into temptation. You can also say that the weapons they would use against you represent shame and guilt. I'm confident that the majority of the people watching this speech are aware of the different concerns associated with people losing their conscience, crimes such as rape, drug addiction, murder, or even mental health issues such as anxiety, eating disorders, depression, and many more. It happens when people are overwhelmed by a variety of feelings, thoughts, events, and most importantly, their impulses and selfish desires causing them to do something they may later regret. I myself struggle with sin, addiction, and for sure made some choices that I've regretted. You have struggles too. Everybody does. Our lack of self-control causes us to fall easily on temptations that we meet on a daily basis. Everybody encounters the same concept with different conditions that make them feel ashamed, guilty, tired, and hopeless. But that doesn't mean that we should stop trying to have control. Here's our hope for the day. If you fall, have enough faith to try again. The body that you're in right now is yours, and it's your obligation to look after it. The mentality you have, the actions that you take, and the words that you say is all determined by how you control it. And now I'm here to ask you a new question. Who is in control of you, and why would you allow it if the answer is not yourself? An advice that I would give is to first love yourself. Prioritize the things that is good for you and for your future self. Flee from temptation. You already know that you're being tempted in the first place. All you have to do now is have courage to decline and ignore it. Be knowledgeable. Remind yourself the consequences that you'll face if you get tempted. Have a sense of humility. Be free from pride and ignorance. Accept, then confess to others what you're dealing with. Consider what you'll get if you don't give in. Maybe you'll feel joyful, happy with how you live, and be comfortable to what your future will be. Last but not least, be patient with yourself. Dealing with temptation is never easy. There's a huge possibility that you'd be lured by it again. However, keep in mind that you could always go to the first step and try again. When we're tempted, we would always have a choice. But we're not just stuck on option B. In fact, there's always an option A. Falling in a cycle of temptation will lead you to a place where you will be enslaved. The deeper you go, the more complicated it is to escape. If you're dealing with something like this, I'd want to remind you that when you're trapped on something, it's important to what you trust in. Because whatever you put your trust in becomes your master, influencing how your mind works, that will reflect on your actions, that will have an impact on your future. Do you trust in you? Let's get back to our situation. If this happens to you in real life, do you know what you should do? Would you choose A to ensure your safety, even though it means losing all your so-called prized possessions? Or would you choose B, even if it's risky, just to keep the things that you consider valuable?